here from All Media Reviews, here to do a film review. I finally got around to seeing the Randall Park directed film Shortcomings, which I'll put an image up here, which stars more or less, I mean, for the most part, a nondescript unknown cast, which it has a cameo from Randall Park, and it has a cameo from Ronnie Chang. But as a whole, it's pretty much, I mean, if you're a fan of, I guess you could just say Asian actors in Hollywood, I mean, Asian American actors, you know some of these names maybe, but I didn't know any of their names. I might have seen some of them in a few other movies. I don't know if any of them were really in like Crazy Rich Asians or something else, but so the movie itself, I mean, the tagline follows a trio of young, that's kind of weird, of young Bay Area urbanites Ben Tanaka, Miko Hayashi, and Alice Kim as they navigate a range of interpersonal relationships while traversing the country in search of the ideal connection. I don't know who wrote that. This is IMDb. That's not the description I would really give to it. So what it really is about is the main character, played by Justin Min, Ben, and his sort of searching for what he wants to do with his life and his relationships, really. His best friend is this Alice, played by Sherry Cola, who is a lesbian, but they're really like, yeah, they're like buddies, really. I'm not sure what her relationship like is intended to be. I guess it's based on a graphic novel. But then his relationship with his girlfriend, Miko, played by Ali Mackey, he's a film savant. He manages a movie theater, and he at one point tried to go into film. But that's kind of a side plot to the actual movie. But he kind of is not sure what he wants to do with his life exactly. You know, in this relationship, not sure if he's like fully happy in this relationship, and his girlfriend too. But so what ends up happening is she says she gets an opportunity to go to New York City on an internship, and he's kind of taken aback by that. Be like, all right, well, we'll take a break, but you know, let's see what happens in a little while. And he's sort of then hires someone at his job, his work, that he's interested in. Oh, that was kind of a conflict of interest. And she's Caucasian, I think. I'm not sure, but but that doesn't happen, and then he ends up meeting someone else at one of his best friend Alice's parties that actually was with one of her friends, or like she was with a woman, but that relationship ended. So he ends up hooking up with this other woman, but still kind of wondering what's going on with his girlfriend in New York City. And then you find out, well, then what happens is actually his friend Alice ends up finding her opportunity to go to New York City. She doesn't actually tell her parents that she's actually come out of the closet, which is, you know, for 2023 it seems weird, but whatever. And actually there's one scene where he poses as her like boyfriend and everything like that, but so she ends up getting an opportunity to go to New York, and then that conveniently allows him to sort of find out what's going on with his girlfriend, because now we're like 2 months later. And she meets someone in New York, and that's why she stays there, which is kind of weird. It's like that whole thing about, I didn't even state that, they're in like the Bay Area originally. The start of the movie, he lives in the Bay Area, all three of them do. So then you find out what happens when first of all, he meets this girl that his good friend, this lesbian friend, is with, and her initial reaction was like, "You can stay with me." She was charming. She had this accent and stuff. Then she kind of got judgmental on him because he was kind of going through a crisis of like, "What's going on with my girlfriend?" This friend of his broke up. The girl he was dating for a little while. What was her name? The woman who had been dating a woman that broke up. Not Meredith. Meredith. There's a lot of names. It's like, what was her name? What was her character's name? I should remember this, of course. My apologies. Anyway, the woman that he ends up having, like, in effect, like a fling with, and then breaking up because she gets back together with a girlfriend. he'd already broken up with her basically before he went to New York City to visit his ex and visit his good friend, his lesbian friend. So then they end up spying on his girlfriend, and they're trying to contact her and all this stuff because he had tried to contact her and she ghosted him basically, and he was like looking at her Instagram. Turns out, spoilers of course, again this movie, that she was actually having an affair with this guy in New York City and never had an internship at all. He went to the office that she claimed to him that she had been interning at, and she had been actually modeling and all this stuff for this guy who had kind of a thing for Asian women. He's Caucasian, although she was saying that no, he's like actually indigenous and Jewish, which the Jewish part doesn't really fly necessarily being Caucasian. There's a lot of sort of social and political race-based sort of commentary in this about, Asian Americans, I guess, and the sort of, how they're looked upon, how they're perceived. But so that kind of goes, up in flames with he ends up confronting her eventually. And finds, and she's still kind of lying to him. It's like he asked her, how's that internship going? Oh, it's going well. And he's like, you're still lying to me, aren't you? And actually at one point, because there was a little drama with his lesbian friend, Alice, he ends up saying something to Alice's new girlfriend in New York. Her name is Meredith, played by Sonoya Mizuno. And my wife thought that she overreacted because Alice got pissed at him for kind of outing him a little in some ways because she's had many relationships and stuff like that. I kind of think I understand why she went off on him, and they have a good relationship because it wasn't very subtle. It's like you meet someone for the first time, you're talking. It's like, oh yeah, did she ever tell you about this? No, especially right away. It's not your place. It wasn't really his place as much as he was going through some stuff, dealing with a lot of stress, and he admits that. The first half of the movie, I thought I really liked the Ben character. I was relating to him in some ways, rooting for him, and then he kind of just lost it. However, what ultimately ends up happening at the end, I feel like a little bit like with Saul, with Jimmy or Saul or whatever, or Gene at the end of Better Call Saul. He's at peace with himself. He basically, his theater has to close. They must have cut a scene because they didn't really explain how that happened. Of course, he's not with his girlfriend. He's not with any of these other women he met. And the place he lives in actually is owned by his I guess, ex-girlfriend's family. So he's kind of going to be homeless too, or not a place to live. He goes back to San Francisco, but he's kind of at peace with himself. As opposed to all these other people are in happy relationships. I wouldn't have written it that way. I don't know how the graphic novel went. I would have had it somehow get him getting some level of poetic justice in that his girlfriend who cheated on him, while he kind of melted down and, was giving shit to the guy she was dating, this tall guy, I forget the character's name, Leon, that has this female Asian fetish or something like that. I would have liked to have seen them not work out, and also I would have liked to actually, in some ways, not having Alice necessarily be so attached to the woman that she just met in New York after being there for 2 months. I forget why she went there. She went there to she was on an internship of her own, I think, or some kind of job. I forget. But the only thing I also concluded is the strongest relationship in this movie clearly was the two of them, Ben and Alice. And while they don't bat for the same team, they could have been platonic partners in some ways. And that would have made more sense in some ways. But what can you do? It's an independent film. You're going to end it how you want. You don't need a happy ending every time. I don't think the ending is super sad, but it's a little disappointing in that, you still kind of want to root for him, and he kind of just ends up almost, other than with his own pride, ends up with nothing, so I give it a thumbs up. I think the trailer, like the other movie I just saw, Dream Scenario, the trailer makes it more comedic. It is funny at points. I think if Randall Park had actually been acting and had a character in it, it probably would have been funnier. The one scene he's a waiter at a restaurant was funny, but you know, I mean, I like his interest in film, and I think it was a good performance by this Justin Min, but and I'll see what he might do in the future. But I mean, mild thumbs up. I've seen 2 movies that are decent. I haven't seen any, I mean, in the last 12 months, I think 52577 is the best movie I've seen, but you know, there's more stuff to see, of course, the Charlie Kaufman movie that's coming up, the animated thing and everything, but that's my take on Shortcomings. What do you think of it? Was it disappointing? Was it a waste of time? Was it disappointing, like, the outcome? Or, you know, check it out, I guess, if you like, you know, is it highly social and political? Yeah, at times. I mean, it's like watching Fresh Off the Boat or something. Yes, it's kind of the obvious, but I do like the fact that the Ben character downplays a lot of his Asian, sort of, his Japanese ethnicity. It's like, big deal. This doesn't really mean anything. I'm just a person, which I like that. A lot of times, a lot of these directors, a lot of stuff in Hollywood, they try to sort of overly emphasize it and beat you over the head with it, and it's just, you know, they're just people. You know, they're people with a different perspective, but it's just people. I know it doesn't, you know, you can't ignore that. But, you know, I just look at him as a person, as a guy who, yeah, he's flawed, but he's real in that sense. It's realistic in a lot of ways. So, anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and we'll see you next time.